Imagine, for a moment, that you're minding your own business, vehemently arguing against the existence of isekai as a genre, as you do, when a floating pink-haired anime waifu appears before you and demands to know your deepest desire. As logic would dictate, you tell her that your desire is to become the Wish.com version of Lelouch Lamperouge from the hit anime Code Geass Lelouch of the Rebellion, and in exchange for that info, you're given a stand from the hit anime JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Sounds like a fun time, right? Imagine now that your story offers nothing else in the way of originality and has a rushed ending after only 10 episodes of whatever the hell this is. Big Order is an anime based on the manga of the same name written by Mirai Nikki mangaka Sakae Esuno and animated by Mirai Nikki Studio Asread, which was founded by ex-employees of Zebek, a fact that makes so much sense given what we now know about Zebek. It also happens to be one of the worst anime I have ever seen, so much so that while I knew I would someday make a video discussing it, my reluctance to spend another 6 hours of my life watching this animated abortion almost outweighed my desire to write about it. But I suppose the time has finally come. I'd like to make it abundantly clear that upon a second viewing of this JoJo's Bizarre Adventure knockoff, it was definitely not as bad as I remember. It was still pretty bad, but there were some vaguely interesting ideas that weren't given the proper time to develop, and while I've heard the manga does a better job of telling this story, I haven't read it, nor do I have any intention of reading it. I have given more than enough attention to this series for one lifetime. Big Order follows Hoshimiya Eiji. An order, or someone whose wish was made manifest and given incredible power in exchange, who is supposedly responsible for an event of devastation a decade prior known as the Great Destruction. He is the spitting image of the protagonist of Mirai Nikki, which is a continuing problem here, as the secondary main, Kurenai Ren, is the spitting image of yandere queen Yuno Gasai, only without the depth, likability, or personality. In this post-apocalyptic Japan, Eiji encounters Rin, whose girl-next-door facade falls apart faster than an incel in a VTuber's stream chat, as it's revealed her parents were killed in the Great Destruction, and ever since, she's vowed to exact her revenge! But if we're being honest, that's where her character ceases to develop in any meaningful way. She's then relegated to being nothing more than ill-conceived waifu bait for the kind of people who ship Misa from Death Note with their OC. Rin works for the Dazaifu Central Bureau, led by a group of 10 orders, all of whom look like they belong in an anime. Whether that's a compliment or an insult, I'll let you decide. Eiji and his stepsister Senna, you can already see where this is going, are kidnapped by the Dazaifu Central Bureau, where, after passing their arbitrary test, he is informed that the entire world now knows that he caused the Great Destruction, and if he has any hope of a normal life, he'll lead the group of 10 as they declare Kyushu an independent country and wage war against the rest of the world. It should be said that all of this happens in the first 2 episodes, and despite the seeming promise of an adventure on a global scale, the war against the rest of the world is a concept abandoned by the 4th episode in favor of something far more stupid. In the 3rd episode, we are given more insight into Eiji's situation. An order with the power to stop objects or people in time has frozen Senna to use her as a bargaining chip to get Eiji to play along, and as a result, the terminal illness that threatens her life also ceases to progress. Eiji acknowledges that Senna is being held hostage by the group of 10, and while they should be his enemies, he cooperates because I mean, his normal life is already kind of over, so he might as well. In my opinion, this is where AG shows his true colors as a character who does not and will never stack up to Lelouch, Light, or even Yuki. He panics and makes an ass of himself immediately upon learning that he's being sent to the front lines, just moments after thinking about how he's trying to use the group of 10 to his own advantage. In any case, the Japanese Prime Minister then tries to intimidate AG and the group of 10 by publicly executing their families, knowing full well that AG could be forcing them to assist in his coup. I can't imagine the sheer human rights violations committed here, and we're only 10 minutes into the 3rd episode. AG tries to stall the executions by shooting his supposed comrades, but for plot reasons, it's revealed that he used his stand to stop the bullets before they did any major damage. AG and Rin are then sent to initiate the invasion of Yamaguchi. They're caught in a collapsing tunnel and are then saved by the 4th hand of the group of 10, a clairvoyant named Io. Io is a strange one, to say the least, as she reveals her belief that if she is touched by a man, she will become pregnant. Huh. I mean, that's odd, but I doubt it'll come back again later. AG's purpose in coming to the front lines is to defeat something called the Rock God, or the stand of an enemy order who's been given the name Ferocious Heavy Rock Star, because of course that's their name, it's a JoJo's knockoff. Io, who was previously cold to AG, inexplicably falls in love with him after she hurts her leg, because this is an anime, and traditionally, anime women will fall in love with the protagonist because he breathed in her direction. In a mad dash to escape the rock god's pursuit, Io falls to the ground, but AG manages to save her by grabbing her ribbon, which actually makes her pregnant. Like, immediately. It's like a Chekhov's gun, if Chekhov had a pregnancy kink. Rin, who's been intentionally leading the rock god towards AG because she can't kill him herself, is then pitted against the ferocious heavy rock star while the episode ends with Io about to give birth. I will stop with the play-by-play here, as I would hope you can see why this series is only good for a laugh. And even then, at some point you have to ask yourself, are you willing to waste 6 hours of your life that you'll never get back, all for a laugh? If you want to laugh, go watch the anime I included in my funniest anime of all time video, not fucking this! I think one of the main reasons I vehemently dislike Big Order is that it had everything it needed to be a truly phenomenal anime. I mean, it's a world where people are given extraordinary abilities based on loose interpretations of their dying wishes. A world where a tragic, extinction-level event has crippled the governments of the world to the point where a revolution is actually feasible. A world where the Japanese Prime Minister can order the public executions of family members of accused terrorists, and the general populace is cool with it. I believe it could have been a great story had they used the set pieces to their advantage. There's one moment in particular where, in an effort to make Senna more relevant, the group of 10 restores her time, tells AG they're going to try to cure her illness, reveals there's actually no way to do so, reveals she's a prime candidate to be in order, and then kidnaps her again, all in about 5 or 6 minutes. Oh, and the writing staff strongly implies that AG fucks his sister in between all of that. In my opinion, the first of many problems arises when you consider the series' runtime. In a large majority of seasonal anime, there are between 12 and 24 episodes budgeted, depending on whether a series is one core or two. In many cases, this is not nearly enough time to tell a full story without cutting corners and either ending with the dreaded to be continued or utilizing the tried and true anime original ending. In the case of Big Order, not only did Asri choose to budget 10 episodes for this sci-fi and action-adventure epic, they also opted to remove any chance for a second season by ending it rather conclusively. I am almost certain I have mentioned this before, but in my experience, the typical manga to anime conversion ratio is about 4 volumes for every 12 episodes. I call this the Clover Works ratio, as I conceptualized it while watching The Promised Neverland's first season, as I tried to predict where the second season would pick up and where it would end. Big Order has 10 episodes, as I said, but it also has 10 manga volumes, so if we're going by the Cloverworks ratio, it should have had at least 30 episodes if it were going to be remotely satisfying. I mean, it would also have to be a good enough story to justify 30 episodes, which again, I can't say with any certainty that it is because I refuse to read the manga, lest my brain cells fully evaporate. Okay, so ignoring the series' premature culmination, the next biggest problem is the characters, especially Eiji and Rin, but I don't think there's a single compelling character in this dumpster fire. Eiji starts the series with absolutely zero motivation, but as soon as Senna is kidnapped, his personality is temporarily altered to something resembling, again, the Lelouch Light, if they were little bitch babies who were sexually attracted to their sisters. I say temporarily here because at literally every opportunity, Eiji goes out of his way to remind us that he is a little bitch baby who is sexually attracted to his sister. Rin, on the other hand, only exists to give Eiji a romantic option that isn't his sister, which he will always ignore in favor of his sister, because this is an anime, and that happens for some reason. If you think I am being unreasonable to Rin, I assure you, I am not. In fact, for much of the series, she is literally robbed of any agency she might have had. When Eiji uses his order to dominate her, she is unable to even attempt to fulfill her life's goal, which is killing Eiji, but still. In the second half of the series, she's freed from Eiji's domination, but then she's immediately dominated by his father, who is, big surprise, the primary villain of the series. It makes matters worse that she's given a half-assed reason to fall in love with Eiji, and she still somehow loses to his sister, and I'm getting Oremo flashbacks. I won't even discuss the group of 10, which is double stuffed with 10 more examples of poor character development and annoying contradictions that could have been fixed with a little more time in the oven. I am almost driven to break the most cardinal of sins and read the manga to figure out if these characters are just as miserable in the source as they are in the adaptation, but nah, not worth it. I still enjoy Mirai Nikki. It has its issues, sure, but it tells a finished story with complete character arcs that result in an overall enjoyable experience. I failed to understand how this followed Mirai Nikki, and now that my grievances are aired like Eiji's dirty, pseudo-incestual laundry, I don't think I care anymore. I have always referred to Big Order as the Moby Dick to my Captain Ahab. It was the one series that I both wanted to make a video on and didn't want to make a video on at the same time, and now that I have made a video on it, never ask me for anything ever again. What's that? You didn't ask me for this in the first place, and I have no reason to assume that I'm talking to anyone in particular because I'm a small creator who has yet to receive any actual video requests?